talk about some nudges that got us to put this together. We didn't just decide out of the goodness of our hearts, let's just do this, why not? We should have, and we probably would have gotten to that point, Brent, you and I, eventually, without that. But it started off with the county manager at the time, Marty Loren. He'd come here about a year and a half, as I recall, maybe less than that, beforehand from another county. And he said, this place is dysfunctional. High Point comes to closed session to the commissioners. Greensboro might come to closed session about the same project to the commissioners. We wouldn't even know that with one another. He says, this makes no sense. We need to put together an organization. And why not create our own Guilford County Department of Economic Development? There was a budget. Maybe 6 or 7 people would be hired, and that'd be the way to have an automatic Guilford County-wide organization. The Greensboro Chamber officials said, yeah, do what you like, county. We're not giving up our office. The city of High Point officials said, knock yourself out, Guilford County. We're not giving up the High Point EDC. So it only took Brent going forward to say, let's think this through. If Guilford County brings 6 or 7 people on board, and the Greensboro Chamber has 5 or 6 economic developers on board, and the High Point EDC has 4+ people on board, we'll have more economic developers in Guilford County than the entire state of North Carolina does with the Economic Development Partnership with North Carolina. So that was a winning argument, that we needed to find another way to make this work. And so that's how the alliance came about. The beauty of Brent coming when he did was that he had no preconceived notions. He didn't know Greensboro and High Point weren't supposed to get along. He didn't care when he heard that was the history. It's like, we're neighbors, we're friends, let's make this work. We had agreed, Brent's predecessor and I, along with our Winston-Salem colleague, that when the client was looking at our area, we were going to offer the same incentive. We were not going to get in a bidding war for incentives. We wanted to make sure that the client picked the property, the building, because it was the right spot, the right location, the right building, not because of the incentive involved. So we agreed for an incentive. I went first with my closed session with City Council in High Point. That amount was agreed to. I told Brent's predecessor, here's the amount, indeed we're doing it, so you can do that with your council. The Greensboro Council, I wasn't at the closed session, but lots of reports from that day say that let's outbid High Point was the rallying cry of that closed session because of the strained nature between our two. Going the opposite direction, Lazy Boy had been in High Point years ago, but moved to Greensboro near Grandover. High Point offered incentives to Lazy Boy. They didn't ask. High Point reached out. It wasn't me. High Point reached out to Lazy Boy, offered incentives, and Lazy Boy moved to the High Point city limits. That was the low point of my time at the High Point EDC. Having to stand in front of the city council and read the script provided for me about bringing that project to High Point. That was embarrassing. That was no way to do economic development. Back in those days, I learned perpetually that a special Greensboro Chamber person loved to come into High Point buildings. We'd meet with High Point companies without telling us. They would even show High Point buildings and sites to clients without telling us. Very interesting. And I was instructed, my office was instructed, to create a brag list of every single company that moved to High Point from the Greensboro city limits, so we could rub it in their face, more or less. One more example, because we're way past those days, but it's good to go back and remember from where we came from to get to this wonderful point. There were times when the state would bring clients to the area, they'd look at a property in Greensboro, then it was time to come look at properties in High Point. We would drive the client to the city line, the Greensboro folks would. The client would get out of their car, walk across the street and get in my car, and we continue the Guilford County site visit. As Brent says, and I've heard him say this many times, that sounds a lot like a hostage exchange. No way in the world to operate.